Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand as the Dutch Avengers assemble as Erik Ten Hag is backed by Ineos with two new coaches coming in. We've already heard about Ruud van Nistelrooy, but also Rene Hake as well coming in from Go Ahead Eagles. Two coaches that are qualified to be first team managers coming in to build a backroom staff for Erik Ten Hag, and I honestly think this is brilliant news, and I think it's brilliant from Ineos to not only be giving Erik Ten Hag the contract, which we've heard about, the 3-year deal worth £9 million a year, but also continuing to back him by bringing in coaches that are going to back his course. Say goodbye to Player FC, say goodbye to Player Power. It's time to back Erik Ten Hag, and Ineos are following through on their contract renewal of Erik Ten Hag by backing him with further coaches to create a backroom staff that I think is going to flourish next season, and I'm super excited for. Going to do a little bit of a deep dive into the new coach that is coming in. I'm going to be honest, about an hour ago I didn't know who Rene Hake was, but I've done my research, I've had a look at his past, I've had a look at his connection with Erik Ten Hag, and hopefully you guys as well can join me on this and learning about that manager and what he's going to bring to Manchester United. It's super exciting because he is leaving his role as a first team manager to come and pursue this new challenge at Manchester United with Erik Ten Hag. Also, what does this mean for Erik Ten Hag? Is it going to free up more time for him to focus on other areas? How is this going to affect the team? And also, a lot of people talking about, oh, it's another SEG client, it's another Dutch person. Well, Pep Guardiola has loads of Spanish backroom staff, but nobody says anything about that. Erik Ten Hag is Dutch. He knows these people. He's bringing in people who he can trust and people that have the same footballing philosophy as him. And I think when you look at Erik Ten Hag, Van der Gaag, Ruud van Nistelrooy, and the new the new assistant coach coming in, which is Rene Hake, you've got a team there that is well equipped to deal with this job at Manchester United and hopefully bring us back to a place where we're competing at a top level. So I'm really excited about this because I look at Ineos and I look at Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and of course when new ownership comes into a club, you think, you know, we want change to happen, we want Erik Ten Hag to be backed, we want our manager to be backed, we want backroom staff that is of the right quality to compete at the top level with a club like Manchester United. And when Ineos did decide to stick with Erik Ten Hag, you were hoping that they'd follow that through by backing him. And I've got to say, they are doing that. They're giving him a 3-year deal, which I think is really good and it shows their support. And not only are they doing that, they're going and bringing in coaches in as well, which I think is super exciting because realistically, who did Erik Ten Hag bring in when he walked through the door? I can just remember Van der Gaag and Steve McLaren. And, you know, he needs more. He needs more, and I think it really helps him in terms of strength in the dressing room as well. But let's get into it, guys. Get your comments in down below. Really excited to get into this and dive into what Rene Hake is actually going to bring to Manchester United and Ruud van Nistelrooy as well. So the news that was coming out from Fabrizio Romano is exclusive. Man United plan to add Go Ahead Eagles manager Rene Hake into the new coaching staff for next season. Hake and Ruud van Nistelrooy expected to be new additions to Erik Ten Hag's staff. I think we heard that Ruud van Nistelrooy was going to be an assistant manager. I assume it's going to be the same with Rene Hake as well. Both have connections to Erik Ten Hag from the past. Club side confident and they are ready to get a new contract signed for Erik Ten Hag and the new staff he is bringing in. I mean, hit a like on the video because it shows that Ineos are backing the manager and they have a plan to stick with Erik Ten Hag. And I think all these people that thought, you know, start of next season, if things don't really go well, you know, you could see Erik Ten Hag getting sacked early doors, and people that didn't want Erik Ten Hag maybe hoping for that to happen, which is really weird. But you know what people can be like sometimes. I don't think that is the case because I tell you what, if we start off next season and we don't start off very well, you've just given, you know, Erik Ten Hag's staff contracts, you've built a staff around him. It's a lot of people to get rid of for a new manager to come in. So I honestly think that Erik Ten Hag is being backed for the long haul here, and I think that's really important that the manager feels that. But not only that the manager feels that, but the players feel that as well. Because for so long at Manchester United, there's been player power, and there's been a feeling that you know, last season there was news coming out, the players feel like Erik Ten Hag isn't going to be here at the end of next season. Some players feel like Erik Ten Hag, you know, isn't the right manager. Like, you hear these stories come out, and it's not just Erik Ten Hag that's had this. Multiple coaches that have been at Manchester United have had to deal with player power. Well, now you've got Van der Gaag behind him, you've got Ruud van Nistelrooy behind him, you've got the new coach Rene Hake behind him, you've got quite a few people there that are all building this team together. And yes, they are Dutch, which I think, you know, I don't understand why anyone has an issue with that. That's like the Dutch. Erik Ten Hag knows them and he feels comfortable to bring them in because he knows their style and he thinks it's going to be compatible with them. You've got a team there where it's not going to be easy for player power to win. You've got a management team that you're going to have to listen to. I mean, you've got Ruud van Nistelrooy, who's played the game and demands respect. I think that's super important as well, but get in your comments down below. Rory C says, hi Beth, did you see the tweet from Graham Bailey saying that we are ready to sell Rashford? I don't know how well sourced he is though. I mean, I've seen that. I've seen the Rashford stuff. I honestly just don't think there's anything in it at all. I think people are just making connections because we've been speaking to PSG. I think it's an easy story to make. If more credible sources come out and speak about Rashford potentially leaving, then I'll give it the time of day. I would be open to Marcus Rashford leaving personally. I would be open to it, but I just don't think it's going to happen. But I know a lot of people would want it to happen. I just don't think it is going to. James Smith says, is he assistant regional manager or assistant to the regional manager? Well, I don't know exactly what the titles are going to be, but they're coming in to be part of Erik Ten Hag's staff. David Mean says, no excuses from Ten Hag and players next season. The style of football has to improve as well. Exactly, this is what I mean, and God forbid you be glass half full about these things. God forbid you be positive about these things. I think it's super positive that Ineos are backing Erik Ten Hag with competent coaches, because let's not forget it, right? This is Erik Ten Hag as the main manager at Manchester United, alongside two coaches that are qualified to be first-team managers and have been successful. I mean, I'm going to speak about Rene Hake in a minute and his success with Go Ahead Eagles, by the way. I'm going to speak about that. But Ruud van Nistelrooy was successful with PSV as well. Like, these are two first-team managers that have rejected, you know, first-team jobs. Rene Hake is leaving his job as a first-team manager for a team that is doing pretty well considering their standings in the Eredivisie. And Ruud van Nistelrooy was offered the Burnley job and could bring them back up to the Premier League and then be a first-team manager in the Premier League, but he's rejected that to join this project. I think it's super exciting for Man United fans, and, you know, this is something that I've not seen from Manchester United. It actually feels like we're making competent decisions. We're making decisions that's going to better us as a football club. And you add that to the squad above, which is obviously, you know, the Dan Ashworth, the Omar Barada, when they finally come through the door, Jason Wilcox, a recruitment team that's capable as well. You've got a competent team of people working together, best in class, for a best in class club that deserves that. So I'm happy with the strides that Ineos are making right now. I'm happy with the appointments that they're making. Obviously, we want to see that on the transfer side of things as well. But even in terms of what we're hearing from the transfer side of things, obviously we've got to see actions happen. We've got to see words turn into actions. We've got to see players come through the door. We've got to see players leave. But we're working on multiple deals at a time. We've got multiple names going. It feels like we're doing things differently. And I'm really, really happy about this. And people call me delusional. People say, Beth, you've got to wait and see. And people say there's no excuses for the start of next season. And there isn't any excuses. Our tactical setup now, looking at it, he's got to be up there with the people that Erik Ten Hag's bringing in. And the appointments that we're making and the trust that Ineos is showing in Ten Hag. It's got to be that way, but I'm super excited about this, and get a like on the video and get your comments in how excited you are as well, because things have to change at the start of next season. And not only, you know, are you bringing two really competent coaches in, you are alleviating some of the pressures off Erik Ten Hag, because we know before Ineos came in, Erik Ten Hag was doing multiple different jobs. He wasn't only the first team coach, and we heard before he even came into Manchester United that he's a tracksuit manager and he loves to be on the training ground. We already knew that he was doing the coaching, but he was also doing the recruitment. He was also, you know, all these other jobs that he was taking part in. That alleviates some of that pressure for Erik Ten Hag to be here, there and everywhere, because he's got two really capable coaches in Rene Hake and Ruud van Nistelrooy coming in, which I think is really important as well. Got some more super chats coming in here. You've got Robert McCormack saying it's good because that now there's no excuses. Exactly, there is no excuses, and Ineos have taken a risk here because if it goes wrong, there's more people to get rid of and pay out. You know, Erik Ten Hag's going to be signing a £27 million deal, which is a lot to pay out if things go wrong. You've got coaches coming in that Erik Ten Hag knows that he'd probably have to pay out. So it is a lot more risk for Ineos, but high risk, high reward. If this works out, it's going to be brilliant because Ten Hag's already had, you know, 2 seasons in the job. We're building, and now we're building with 2 more competent coaches coming in. So there is no excuses, Robert. I get that. I know a lot of people say, well, if things go wrong, Van Nistelrooy's there to be an interim manager or potentially take over. I don't see it like that. I think Ten Hag wants to work with Van Nistelrooy. I think Van Nistelrooy gives Erik Ten Hag more backing in the dressing room as well because he demands respect. I think it's a good appointment. Space Oddie says, give Rashford a season under Ruud and then sell if it doesn't work. I mean, that's the exciting thing as well because, you know, you've got, you know, Erik Ten Hag, who has the same principles as Rene Hake, by the way. We're going to go into that in a second. And then you've got Ruud van Nistelrooy, who, like Mark always says, has played the game and demands respect on the player side of things and has a very charismatic way about him, has an energy that kind of, he just exudes charisma. And he's going to hopefully be able to have them relationships with the players. And also, if the players aren't delivering his instructions, especially the attacking players that do have to improve, he's also not one to beat around the bush. I mean, we've got a team of Dutch coaching staff. The Dutch are straightforward. The Dutch are to the point. Like, the players are going to have nowhere to hide. And there's a team now backing Erik Ten Hag. I love it. I honestly do love it. Nick P says, do you think long-term Ruud has an eye on something bigger at the club? Of course he does. You know, when you're coming into a job, you're always going to be looking, you know, it moving up the ladder, and I'm sure Ruud van Nistelrooy would love to be manager of Manchester United one day, but I don't think he's coming in with the intent to take Erik Ten Hag's job. I think he knows the role that he's going to have to do, and I think he's going to be coming in to work with Erik Ten Hag to obviously advance his career because he'll be working with hopefully top players and a top club and competing at the highest level, which obviously helps his CV out a lot. And he's going to be, you know, in a team of really competent coaches where he's going to be able to gain experience as well. So I don't think he's coming in thinking, oh, I'm going to be able to get the Man United job here. I think it's probably a long-term goal of his, but I don't think that's the initial aim. But keep getting your chats in, everybody. And we've got Zihan saying, let's get behind Rashford. He provided valid reasons for his loss of form. He had personal issues. Let's cut him some slack and have unity. I think everyone can have an opinion on whether they want Rashford to go or not. I think everyone can have that opinion. I think you can want Rashford to go, you can want Rashford to stay. But I will say, at the start of next season, I really want the fan base to be behind this team and behind the manager, and hopefully we can have a good start because we need a good start, and got a couple of tough games there at the start of the season. Space Oddie says, wish we could get Van der Sar as well. Can I just say, imagine if we had Ralf Rangnick as sporting director as well. Like Ralf Rangnick, what he's doing with Austria, to be fair, he's working as a coach now, not a sporting director, but the players that he recommended and just got ignored and ridiculed. I mean, we've let a few corkers pass us by as well, and I thought Ralf Rangnick was a big loss, although there was rumours at the time that Ten Hag didn't want to work with him, but I don't know how true they were. But yeah, Van der Sar would have been brilliant because he worked well with Ten Hag as well. I just hope Dan Ashworth can live up to the plate, to be honest with you. I'm not 1,000,000% sold on Dan Ashworth, I'm going to be honest. Just based off stuff I've heard around, you know, him wanting Southgate, that's massive red flags to me, personally. I mean, look at what Southgate's now doing with England. But I'm hoping he's going to be a good appointment because I'm putting my trust in Ineos here because they've made the right decision with Ten Hag. I think they're making the right decision with the appointments that they're bringing in now. They're making astute decisions. I thought they made a brilliant decision in bringing Omar Barada in. Claude Blanc, I think, is a great appointment, so I'm going to trust Ineos in the waiting game to bring Dan Ashworth in, but that's the only one I'm not 100% sold on, to be honest with you. But let's get into what Rene Hake is going to bring to Manchester United because I think this is really, really important. So, done a little bit of research on him. He's been compared to Erik Ten Hag in the past, with both managers having a focus on compact defensive structures. And although a lot of people say last season we weren't compact and we weren't great defensively, Again, I will state the amount of injuries we had were absolutely obscene. The season before that, we had the most clean sheets in the Premier League. So, last season was a write-off, and it was, for me, with the amount of injuries we had, especially to our back line, it was literally unforeseen circumstances. They share the same football vision, so they share, getting tripping up on my words here, I'm so excited. They share, what is wrong with me? They share the same football vision which they learned while in the youth department of FC Twente, another Dutch club. They also share a training principle that requires all the players to be involved in both the attacking and defensive play. Again, we've seen that in Manchester United. We've seen the high press. We've seen the fullbacks coming forward and being inverted. We've seen the way that Erik Ten Hag wants to play. And I think, just really off topic, Ugarte is the perfect signing to complement that. Pressing monster, brilliant at sniffing out danger, lot of energy, defensively brilliant, interceptions, but also can get forward as well. I think Ugarte would be great, to be honest with you. But yeah, share the same style of football, which requires every player to be involved in both the attacking and defensive side of the game. Hake led Go Ahead Eagles to a very impressive 9th place finish in the 23-24 campaign, comfortably their best campaign in over 15 years. So Rene Hake has done a brilliant job with Go Ahead Eagles, and it's been said over in the Netherlands, in Dutch outlets, that he's getting the most out of the squad, which I think is really important as well. Obviously, we're hoping that we're going to bolster Man United squad with signings this season, but you want managers that are going to get the best out of your current crop of players, and the fact that he's overachieving with the current crop of players he has at Go Ahead Eagles, I think is a really important sign of a good coach. I mean, you see that with Ruud van Nistelrooy Austria as well. He's overachieving with the set of players that he has. I mean, the fact he's topped the group with Netherlands and France in, that both have better squads than what he's got, he's overachieving. He's a good coach. Southgate's got one of the best squads in the whole tournament, if not the best. One of the best anyway, and probably the best England squad in 20 years. Not 20 years. Best England squad in how many years? Yeah, probably around best England squad for a long time, and he's underachieving massively. So that's what good coaches are supposed to do. They're supposed to overachieve with the set of players that they've got. So that's promising signs. Also, Ten Hag has previously spoke about Hake coming in, and he said, "We met up and call each other. You talk about private matters, how things are going at home with the children, but it's usually about football." At 20, he was incredibly driven, ambitious, but also extremely convinced of himself. A trainer who worked very methodically. We know that Erik Ten Hag works very methodically as well. And then Hake said on Erik Ten Hag, after the Utrecht side at the time stunned Erik Ten Hag's Ajax side away from home in October 2021. He said, "Erik thinks I'm a very annoying guy. Our performance shows that you can be very good against those top teams." So yeah, when his Utrecht side stunned Erik Ten Hag's Ajax side away from home, he went on and spoke about Erik Ten Hag and was having a bit of a joke, saying that Erik Ten Hag, thinks I'm annoying because my team, has done really well against his, and it shows that you can get, you can compete against top sides with a side that isn't quite as good, and that's exactly what he's been doing in his career. So I think it's really promising signs right now. I think it is really promising signs in terms of who we're bringing in to Manchester United to help Erik Ten Hag out, and I think it's good that they have that relationship as well, because they know each other inside out. They know how they think about football. They talk about football together. They have a relationship, and you're always going to work better with people like that. I mean, people will talk about the Dutch side of things, and again, I don't think that matters. I think it's important that you know who you're working with and you trust each other as well. We've got Linda Searles in saying, "I know Rashford had a bad season, but didn't he score 30 goals in all comps? How many goals have Sancho scored for us? Sancho could have apologised to Erik Ten Hag, but didn't." Interesting stuff on the Rashford and Sancho situation. To be honest, the way that I think about it is Sancho's gone, Greenwood's gone, Rashford's staying. That's how I think about it. Jason Morgan says, "Do you think selling Rashford would provide a better chance to sign João Neves?" I mean, it absolutely would provide a better chance, because you've got a lot more money. If Rashford went, you'd expect us to get a very good fee for him, because even though he's had a poor season, he's, a well-established player in Europe that multiple leagues know about and monitor, and he's got a good reputation, and it's pure profit because he's come through our academy, so it gives you more leeway to spend. But if Rashford went, you would still have to replace him with another winger. Whether that would be a right winger or a left winger or one that can play both sides, you would have to replace, because you've got Garnacho, who you would assume would start, but you'd want more than one player per position. On the right-hand side, you've got Ahmad and Anthony. You'd need somebody else, especially if Sancho and Greenwood both went. But again, I don't think Rashford is going. And people might call me too optimistic here, but I'm really kind of hopeful for the impact Ruud van Nistelrooy can have on Rashford. I'm really hoping that Ruud van Nistelrooy will have a big impact on Rashford, because he's been a super successful forward player for Manchester United. He knows what it takes to be a forward player at the top of his game. I mean, what he did as a player was absolutely unbelievable. He was amazing at what he did. He was amazing at scoring goals in the box. He could use his head, he could use his left, he could use his right. Rashford, for me, could do with a few lessons off Ruud van Nistelrooy, so I'm hoping that will get the best out of him, but maybe that's just me kind of looking glass half full. But in terms of the go-ahead Eagles success that Rene Hake had while he's been at go-ahead Eagles, obviously the Dutch side, Hake would lead Utrecht to 6th place in 2021 before somewhat harshly losing his job late on that following campaign. His impact at an unfancied go-ahead Eagles outfit, meanwhile, is further proof of Hake's ability to build a side greater than the sum of its parts. Interesting stuff, which we were just saying there, that he, kind of overachieved with what he had. He also crossed paths with the current Manchester United assistant, Steve McLaren, at FC20. So there's another connection there with Steve McLaren. He was in charge of the under-21s when McLaren secured both the league title and his status as the legend in 2010. Dutch sports outlets also named Hake as one of their Manager of the Year candidates at the end of 2023. They highlighted not only his tendency to overachieve, but also his ability to create a team capable of playing free-flowing football. Again, I think that's music to my ears. Just what we spoke about then. We want to see free-flowing football at Manchester United. We want to see exciting football at Manchester United, and hopefully Hake can contribute to that. And based on what he's done in the past, based off what I'm reading, it seems like he definitely has what it takes to add that in to Manchester United. We've got a couple more chats coming in here saying George Macuvza said Cavani and Ronaldo had no impact on Rashford. There is no helping him. I get what you're saying. But I mean, it was weird, wasn't it? Because it felt like Cavani helped Greenwood a lot at the time. Like Greenwood and Cavani seemed to have a good relationship when Greenwood is at Manchester United, and Ronaldo did mention there was a lot of younger players that didn't want to listen to him. We don't know if Ronaldo was one of them. Sorry, we don't know if Rashford was one of them. But it's weird with Rashford because he's had that amazing season that he had the season before last, and then this season was absolutely non-existent. But the thing is, and I know Mark spoke about it a lot, but Rashford going to PSG, I just don't see it happening. I don't see Rashford wanting to leave Manchester United to go to PSG personally. And at the end of the day, Rashford signed, was it a 5 or 6 year deal at the end of last year, about a year ago now, on over 300 grand a week? At the end of the day, the player has the final say. So it's all about whether Rashford wants to go or not. He's not irreplaceable. He's not. There was a point in time when Man United fans would be, worried to death about the thought of losing Marcus Rashford because of how important of a team player he is for us. But I think now a lot of people would say that it's not the end of the world if you lost Rashford. He wouldn't be irreplaceable. If you offered around 80 to 85 million for Rashford, you'd think that's money straight in our pocket to go invest into the club. A lot of people would take that. There was a point in time where people would say he was unsellable. Now I think he is sellable to a lot of Man United fans. For me, you know, there's only a few players in that football club that are unsellable. The Garnachos, the Rasmuses, for me, Bruno, Kobbie Mainoo. I really, really like Diogo Dalot, Lisandro Martinez, and past that, like, you know, nobody's really untouchable for me. I think Rashford, there's a price there 100%, but I think it's all about whether the player wants to go. And I think there's a lot of United fans, and I know a lot of this community that would want Rashford to go, but just because you want him to go doesn't mean it's going to happen. And I just don't see it personally. I really don't see it. And I think if he's not going to go, the best you can hope for is for him to come back firing at the start of next season. Hopefully he does, you know, have a good relationship with Ruud van Nistelrooy, and he develops that part of his game and we see a successful Rashford, because it's not as if Rashford's never been successful. This is what I mean. It's not as if Rashford's never delivered. We've seen what Rashford can do. It's always been with Rashford doing it on a consistent basis, whether that's mentality, whether that's getting your head down, whether that's, you know, training harder, whether that's having that relationship with Ruud van Nistelrooy to understand how you consistently perform at a top level as a forward player for Manchester United. Whatever it is, it needs to be solved. If Rashford has another poor season, you're in a really sticky situation in terms of the contract and what happens. He has to bounce back next season for Manchester United if he does stay. Palm says Rashford needs to be sold as a statement intense for Ineos. RS7 says keep Rashford, Sancho and Ahmad and Garnacho, sell Anthony, Palestri, Greenwood and Shoretiri. Rohit Kitheri says, Beth, I think this is after a long time, the manager will get a proper structure above him and the training staff he wants. Now we have to get the player he wants. Go Dutch. Exactly. So there's so much out there of different players we want and, you know, what positions we're going for. We've already made moves to back Erik Ten Hag with the incomings of Ruud van Nistelrooy and Rene Hake. Now we need to back Erik Ten Hag with transfers coming in. We need to ensure we go and get him at least one, but I would say two centre-backs. We need to get Casemiro shifted to the Saudi Pro League and bring in a proper midfielder to complement Mainoo. We need to bring in a striker to help Rasmus out. We need to go and get a left-back. We potentially even need to go and get a right winger depending on what happens with the outgoings of Rashford potentially, Greenwood and Sancho. We need to go and invest into players to bring in to support us into the campaign next season, because I was going through this with my brother the other day and I was saying, you know, what do you expect our starting 11 to be on the first day of the season? What do you expect Erik Ten Hag to set up with on the first day of the season, including signings? And I was looking at it and I was thinking, you know, at least one new centre-back to go alongside Martinez, a new left-back depending on whether Shaw's fit or not. If Shaw's fit, you still expect Shaw to start, but you want a left-back there just in case. Definitely a midfielder to pair it with Mainoo in the midfield, Bruno Fernandes. Then I was looking at the front three and I was thinking, you know, the front three is still a little bit underwhelming. We need investments there. You need a creative right winger realistically. You do. Like you do. You need someone to provide service to Rasmus. Or the new striker, depending on who Erik Ten Hag decides to start, because we will buy a new striker. Whoever is, you know, the more competent striker to start at the start of next season, whether that would be, I'd expect it to be Rasmus, and then the new striker to kind of try and work his way in. And then you've got, for me, Garnacho would be my first choice on the left, but you've also got Rashford for there as well. And then on the right-hand side, you want someone creative. You want to create balance. So there's a lot to be done in the transfer window, and there's a lot to be done before Manchester United fly out on the 24th of July to the USA pre-season tour. So I'm over the moon with these appointments. I think it's great that Rene Hake has relationships already with Erik Ten Hag. I think it's great that he shares the same vision with Erik Ten Hag. I think it's great that they have the same footballing philosophies. I think it's great that they still speak about football consistently. I think it's great that we're also bringing in Ruud van Nistelrooy, who has played the game and demands respect and adds the charismatic side to the coaching staff, but not only just adds personality, actually knows what he's doing as a coach as well. It has had successes at PSV and is willing to turn down a first-team job to join this project, which I think means the project is super exciting as well. And I think it's great that also, you know, Rene Hake is got relationships with Steve McLaren. I don't know what Van der Gaag's future holds, but I think he was getting approached by Ajax not so long ago for the first team job. So he's obviously well sought after as well, and well respected around, you know, around Ajax, who is obviously previously been at Ajax as a coach as well. So I think we're building, like the title says, a dream team. I think we are building a dream team. Obviously, actions speak louder than words. There's no excuses come the start of the season now. We've got to start strong. We've got to be competing from minute one in the Premier League. And in order to do so, we've got to back up this structure and the coaching staff and the structure we've got above Erik Ten Hag with players coming in as well to build a competent team for the coaches to work with. And I think that's the next step now. But I'm super excited, I honestly am. Outgoings, we need to get a shift on, I'm going to be honest. I know Romano, Ben Jacobs has said it's quite slow at the moment because of the Euros, but we really do need to get a shift on. The sooner we can get Mason Greenwood out the door, the better. The sooner we can get the Sancho situation sorted out, the better. I've kind of come to the conclusion it's probably going to be a loan. We should not loan him back to Dortmund. We would look like idiots. If it's going to be a loan, the Juventus one, as Mark was speaking on the morning show, could be quite interesting. We've got to get the Casemiro to Saudi situation sorted out. I know we're waiting on Saudi Arabia to approach and put their proposal forward, and Casemiro has to accept it, but the sooner we can get that going, the better. And we've got to have players in place to come in and bolster this squad. We need to figure out what we're doing with the Branthwaite deal. Are we going for Todibo, or are we moving on to a different right-sided centre-back? If Ugarte is the one to bring in, if we can't afford João Neves, let's go and get him and bring him to Manchester United. We've got to back up these brilliant appointments in coaches coming into Manchester United with the right players to come in again as well. So thank you everyone for getting involved in the chat. Thank you for all the super chats as well. Make sure you hit a like on the video. Let me know your thoughts on this. Are you sold on what Ineos are doing? Are they doing what you expected them to do? Are you happy about the moves that they are making? I'm going to be honest, at that moment in time when we're unsure what Erik Ten Hag's future was going to be, we were getting linked to Southgate. I was thinking, this isn't looking good right now. But, you know, the appointment of Barada, going and getting two coaches that are going to back Erik Ten Hag, two very competent coaches as well, that know Erik Ten Hag's style of football and are going to bolster this coaching staff, making moves already in the transfer windows and handling the transfer window a little bit differently, bringing in Omar Barada, Claude Blanc as well. I'm starting to be sold on this idea, and the interviews that Sir Jim Ratcliffe as well has been given is really optimistic, talking about how Ten Hag's a good coach. It's not the manager isn't the reason why we've been unsuccessful for so many years. I'm starting to really kind of take to Ineos now, and I'm getting hopeful for what our future could be, and we are starting to appoint the best in class, so I'm very happy about it. Get a like on the video, it's looking good. Get your comments in down below, and we will see you for any more breaking news, and if not, the 8 PM show. Have a brilliant day, everyone.